I need your help, please subscribe my channel. It was meant to be the proudest day of my life. The moment I finally proved I wasn't the worthless disappointment my parents always claimed I was. The auditorium was alive with clapping, flashing cameras, and students in gowns embracing their families. Flowers exchanged hands, laughter mingled with tears. Yet, true to form, my parents managed to taint it all. Backstage, I gripped my diploma folder so tightly the edges bent. My palms were slick beneath the robe's fabric. The announcer's voice echoed through the speakers. Next, graduating with honors in biomedical sciences, Madison Carter. My heart faltered. That was me. Years of late-night shifts, cheap noodles, and tear-stained textbooks, all leading to this single walk across the stage. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. I stepped forward. The applause sounded distant, muffled as though underwater. My eyes searched the crowd until I found them, my parents front and center, wearing the same smug looks I'd memorized growing up. Mom's lips curved in what might have passed for a smile, though it wasn't. Dad lounged with one arm draped across his chair, and beside him sat my sister Stephanie, wearing designer sunglasses indoors like she was better than everyone else. When I reached the dean and took my diploma, something cut sharply through the noise, my mother's voice loud and cruel. "Well, finally," she said. "Good. Now you can start paying us back for existing." Laughter broke out around them, not just hers. Dad's deep chuckle followed, and Stephanie covered her mouth, smirking. My stomach twisted. The dean's handshake faltered. For a moment, everything inside me went still. Then the laughter swelled, bright and piercing like a spotlight on my skin. I forced a fragile smile and stepped off the stage, my face burning. Behind me, Mom called out again. "Don't forget to thank us, Maddie. You'd be nothing without our sacrifices." The section erupted once more. Even the photographers' cameras clicked in rhythm with their mockery. After the ceremony, the courtyard filled with graduates and their families. Flowers, hugs, proud pictures. I stood alone, clutching my cap, fighting back tears that threatened my makeup. And then, as always, my parents appeared. They never missed a chance to perform when there was an audience. Mom slipped her arm through mine, her nails biting into the fabric. "You did good, kid. Guess all those nights we didn't help finally paid off." "Huh." Dad smirked, tapping my diploma case. "Hope that paper's worth something, 'cause your share of the electric bill's due next month." Stephanie laughed. "Come on, Dad. She's broke. Let her enjoy her 2 minutes of fame before reality kicks in." "Reality already did," I murmured. "It hit every night I studied in the dark because you turned off the power to teach me responsibility." Mom rolled her eyes. "Here comes the victim speech again." She leaned close, her perfume sharp enough to sting. "You're lucky we didn't give up on you. You owe us your life, Madison." My lips trembled. "I didn't ask for it." Dad chuckled, low and mean. "Then you should have made it worth something." He pulled out his phone and showed me the screen. A video of me tripping slightly as I left the stage, red-faced, their laughter audible in the background. "This one's going on Facebook," he said, grinning. Caption: "Our daughter finally graduated from Failure University." Something inside me cracked. I didn't know if it was pride or heartbreak. Maybe both. When they left for dinner, without me of course, I stayed behind, sitting alone in the empty courtyard. The sky shifted from orange to violet. I sat on the cold steps, my cap in my lap, my diploma clutched to my chest like a shield. For hours I watched other families drive away, laughter echoing through open car windows. I thought about every time I'd begged them to see me, every birthday they'd skipped, every cruel reminder that I'd never be good enough. And still, some part of me wanted them to love me. That was the part that hurt the most. When the janitor came to lock up, I forced myself to stand. My knees shook. I wiped my eyes and whispered, "They don't get to break me again." I walked to the parking lot, gravel crunching under my shoes. For the first time in years, I didn't drive home. I didn't even glance back. Instead, I drove to the diner where I worked part-time and asked for a double shift, anything to avoid that house, that laughter. But I knew this wasn't over. They'd spent my whole life feeding me humiliation. One day I'd return the favor. And when I did, they'd choke on every grain of the dirt they'd made me crawl through. That night I couldn't sleep. The words "pay us back for existing" replayed in my mind like a broken record. Every laugh, every sneer, Every flash of their mocking faces echoed through the walls. After my shift, I sat in the back booth of the diner, still in my uniform, my folded graduation gown beside me like a dead memory. Angie, the waitress who'd trained me, a kind woman in her 40s with weary eyes, set a cup of coffee in front of me. "Rough day?" she asked. I let out a dry laugh. "You could say that." "Family?" "Yeah," I whispered. "The kind that calls you a burden in front of a crowd." She didn't flinch. Just nodded slowly. "Honey, sometimes blood's the first poison you learn to survive." Her words stuck with me. For the first time I thought about survival, not enduring them, not waiting for love that never came, but truly living beyond them. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I moved out quietly. No confrontation. No scene. I packed the few things they hadn't already taken for Stephanie, some notebooks, a lamp, my diploma, and left a note on the kitchen counter. "Don't worry. You won't have to pay for my existence anymore." I rented a tiny studio apartment above a mechanic's shop, with paper-thin walls and a window that rattled whenever a bus went by. But it was mine. That first night, I sat on the floor with a microwave dinner and cried. Not from sadness but from relief. The silence was mine too. No yelling. No insults. No laughter at my expense. At the diner I took every shift they'd offer, mornings, nights, doubles. Customers complained, spilled coffee, left pocket change as tips, but I smiled through it all because it was mine, my effort, my paycheck, my life. Sometimes I caught myself staring at my phone, half hoping for a call, maybe an apology, but the only messages that came were from Dad. "Send money this month." "Stephanie's phone broke." "You owe us for raising you." "Don't forget who fed you." Each message felt like a hand dragging me back into the mud, so I stopped replying. Then came the photo. One evening while I was mopping the diner floor, my phone buzzed. Stephanie had sent a picture. Her sprawled across my old bed, wearing my graduation gown like a costume. The caption read, "Your room's finally being put to good use." My throat tightened. I could almost hear their laughter again. That house had always reeked of control, perfume, cigarettes, and pride. They'd taken everything from me before, but not this time. The next day, I stopped by my old professor's office to leave a thank you note. He looked up surprised. "Madison, you vanished after graduation. Everything okay?" I smiled faintly. "Just learning what it means to start from zero." He nodded. "That's where the best things begin." And he was right. My new life began from that zero. Over the next year, I juggled night classes and research analysis with my shifts at the diner. Sleep was rare, meals skipped, but my focus stayed sharp. Bit by bit I climbed. A lab assistant position. Then a research grant. Then a full-time analyst job. Every paycheck. Every promotion. Every late night earned one step at a time. It had taken years of long nights and quiet battles to prove them wrong. Every cruel word they'd ever thrown at me had unknowingly built something stronger inside. A sense of worth they could never take back. Still, the past had a way of finding you. One rainy Sunday, while I was reviewing patient data in the lab, my phone rang. The screen flashed a name I hadn't seen in a long time. "Mom." Her voice trembled when I answered, not sharp or mocking this time, but weak. "Maddie," she whispered. "Your father's lost his job. The company shut down. We're in trouble." I didn't speak at first. The silence hung between us, heavy and long enough for me to hear her uneven breathing. "Trouble," I repeated. "Like the kind I was in when I couldn't afford groceries? Or when I begged you to help with my textbooks?" She sniffled. "You don't have to be cruel. I learned from the best." "Please," she said, her voice breaking. "We just need a little help. Stephanie's with us and we can't." "You can't what?" I interrupted. "Live without my money? I thought I was the one who owed you for existing." "Maddie, don't. You taught me what I was worth. Remember." The line went silent. I hung up. For the first time, what I felt wasn't hate, it was something colder. Closure. But revenge wasn't finished yet. 2 weeks later, the phone rang again. This time it was Stephanie. Her voice shook with panic. "Madison, it's bad. Dad's sick. We can't afford his medication. Mom said maybe you could help through your work connections." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the sterile white walls of my office. My reflection in the glass smiled faintly. You want help from the one who never deserved any? That's ironic. Please, she whispered. You're all we have. That line hit harder than I expected. Once that had been me, begging for any scrap of kindness, any proof that I mattered. But I wasn't her anymore. You want help? I said slowly. I'll come see you. Before she could thank me, I hung up. That night, I drove to their house for the first time in 2 years. The driveway was cracked, the paint on the walls fading. The air smelled of mildew instead of control. Mom opened the door. The look on her face, shock, guilt, fear, was almost satisfying. You came, she whispered. I smiled. Of course. You said you needed me. Inside, the house was dim. Dad sat slumped in a chair, pale and frail. Stephanie hovered nearby, biting her nails. For a brief moment, I saw them not as villains but as what they really were. Small broken people who had built their pride on my pain. I crossed my legs and sat down. So, I said calmly, tell me what you need. Mom opened her mouth, but I cut in before she could speak. Actually, don't. I already know. Their eyes widened as I placed a small brown box on the table. This, I said, is everything I ever wanted to give you. Dad frowned and opened the lid. Inside was dirt, dry, plain soil. What the hell is this? He asked. The ground, I said softly. You always told me I belonged there. I figured it's time you had a taste. Their faces drained of color. You can keep it, I said, standing. Consider it payment for existing. Then I walked out, leaving behind the only house that had ever made me feel homeless. The air outside was cold, but it didn't sting this time. It felt clean. I didn't look back. Their porch light flickered as I drove away, the box of dirt still sitting on their table like a curse they'd written themselves. Weeks passed. No calls. No texts. No pleas. Just silence. The same silence they'd given me when I cried for help as a teenager. But I'd learned that silence can be louder than any scream. Then one morning, a letter arrived at my apartment. The handwriting was shaky, almost unrecognizable. Mom's. Madison, we don't expect forgiveness. But the dirt is still on the table. We see it every day. We can't eat without thinking about what we fed you all those years. It's what we deserved. Your father doesn't laugh anymore. Your sister left to find herself. Maybe she's just running from what we did. I keep the lights off now. The silence hurts too much. You were the only one who ever tried to stand. We should have let you. I folded the letter carefully and tucked it into a drawer. Not because I wanted to keep their apology, but because it reminded me that I'd won without ever needing to raise my voice. A few months later, I walked across a very different stage, not at graduation but at a medical conference. I was being honored for my research on pediatric trauma recovery. This time, as applause filled the room, it didn't sound hollow or forced. It was mine. After the ceremony, I stepped outside into the cool evening air. A little girl passed by, holding her mother's hand and laughing. The sight tugged at something deep inside me. A reminder of everything I'd survived. I smiled, knelt slightly and whispered to myself, you gave them dirt, but you grew something from it. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I felt free. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in the comments where you're watching from.